You're watching Marketing Tip Tea Time, and I'm your host, Aaron Zimala. This is the episode that everybody's been waiting for. It's the last episode of the season, and let me tell you, this one is going to be so full of great information with such a wonderful person who has done so many fantastic things in her life that we are really excited that she said yes to come on the show and to really show us what it's like in her world. And so we will be talking about marketing. We're going to be talking about job transitions. We're going to be talking about community engagement and the importance of that being an entrepreneur. And so let me tell you, my mind is blown. My mind is blown. And now I'm just spiraling out of control because I'm just so excited. But our guest for today, the last episode of season 5, is Maria Gironas. Maria is a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree. Yes, I said Forbes, like Forbes. She is an entertainment and technology executive who elevates marginalized communities and empowers creatives to embrace technology. She's currently the global chair of diversity and inclusion at Women in Music and the founder of her own company, Cool Shit, Cool People, a cutting-edge artist development, talent relations, and integrated marketing consultancy, which, let me tell you, we're really excited, and I'm going to drum roll here very lightly because, we have the Neumann. Here we go, Maria. Here she is.
Hey Aaron, how's it going?
It's
Good
going
to see you
great.
too.
And you're in Los Angeles right now, correct?
I sure am. Yeah.
Right. And we're in Greeley, Colorado. All of our, I think everybody who watches the show knows that now. If you've ever watched South Park, we're the opposite of Hawaii in South Park. And, today, the most important part, I think, is always the tea on the show. So Maria wanted us to get Bigelow. I have not had this one, but we're huge Bigelow fans on the show. This is the vanilla chai black tea. Smooth vanilla blended with flavorful spices, sweet and spicy, all at the same time. And when I opened it, the smell, boom, slapped me in the face. It's so good. I'm excited. I'm going to go ahead and start steeping here. So how are you doing today? What's been the coolest thing you've done in the last week or so? This
I
is steeping.
just on Friday or Saturday, I just came back from a month-long trip to Bolivia with my family. My parents are immigrants from Bolivia, so we have property over there, and I spent the whole month like practicing Spanish, saying hi to relatives I haven't seen in over 18 years. So, yeah, it was about a week ago I was in Bolivia, so it's pretty special.
Wow, that's fantastic. Spending time with family is always awesome, especially when you get to go someplace cool like that too.
100%,
Now,
100%.
do you have a story about this tea or a reason that this one was one of your favorites?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. So my family, we're tea people. So every night before I went to bed for like 18 years and still now, we'd have like some bread and tea. Usually breakfast tea, like Lipton breakfast tea. And then one day I remember I just got into like ordering groceries online. This was like in college and everything. And
Yeah.
I had ordered I think the Lipton breakfast tea, and they gave me this one, and it was like very wrong, obviously, Brett chai and breakfast tea,
Right.
and I got this one. I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna drink it. And sure enough, when I had a similar experience when you open the packet. I was like, whoa, it smells like sugar. Like it smells like it's just
Yeah.
already sweet. And sure enough, like I was so lazy about like buying groceries in general in college. It just like, just put it in hot water. You don't really need much sugar and it's like so tasty.
Yep.
And now when I used to live in England, I would order this tea from the States in order to come to me so I could have it with a little bit of milk and honey. And that's
Really?
usually how I serve my tea every morning. Yeah.
Wow. So do you drink this pretty often? This one?
Yeah, I would say so. Like I definitely drink tea according to like the meal or the mood. But generally like I
Okay.
have a couple different things, but this is my like particularly favorite tea if I have like a bit of a sweet tooth that day.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I was struggling with the tea bag there for a second, but I got it, everyone. It's all under control now. All right. So we're gonna, and anybody who's wondering, you might be seeing my pinky here, which I'll just bring up in case you're, distracted by the gummy bear on the nail and the henna. I was at a policy pinky party yesterday in which we were going over Colorado policy, and this was we all pinky swore to each other that we, uphold certain standards. So that's why my pinky is blinged out today, just for all of the viewers to know. But next, we're going to dive into the questions. We want to get to know you. These will be really quick, rapid fire, this or that. You don't have to give an explanation if you don't want to, and we will just dive on in. All right. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Yes. We love that answer. All right. Your favorite band?
I have three: Taylor Swift, Dashboard Confessional, and Explosions in the Sky.
Wow, very different sort of spread you've got there. That's awesome. Instagram, Reddit, or LinkedIn?
Oh man. I want to say I feel like I've been on LinkedIn a lot recently, just out of just seeing a lot of really like great content. Reddit's where I go to like information. Instagram, I just recently deactivated my Instagram, so I haven't been on it in a bit actually.
I've been watching.
Yeah,
I've been watching.
I'll probably say LinkedIn. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, and here's an important one for everybody listening. One book that every marketer should read.
Marketing Lessons from the Grateful Dead. It's a book
That's
about
awesome.
like kind of the marketing of the Grateful Dead over their career, and I can't remember what mentor of mine said this, but I always really love the sentiment. Like every great artist was in the marketing meeting, and that book is just a true example of like that kind of methodology. Also, like I'm a big fan of like autobiographies of like artists and stuff, and every single one of them you'll hear about like them being in the marketing meeting. A Grateful Dead book is like great one for any marketer to read, in music especially.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. And there's actually we have a connection with Patrick Bradley, who's been on the show before. He's the chief revenue officer of Tixer, which is a huge ticketing platform for festivals and things like that. So he's a good friend of mine as well. And he was talking about how Kiss just had it locked in with marketing because they merchandised and franchised all this merchandise, like so much that really what made them so successful on a revenue side was the marketing push for all of the different merchandise that they had. It's like every kid in America had like one of the action figures or like a poster or something. So no, that's a great point that we can learn a lot from artists and marketing for sure. All right, now the big story. The big story. You are a Forbes 30 under 30 this year. Congratulations. Can you tell us, I know the story's probably super long, or maybe not, but tell us the story of how you came to be a Forbes 30 under 30 and what that experience was like.
Yeah, I'll start with a little bit about my story in general because I feel like that helps contextually of my career. So when I was 11 years old, I was signed. I was an artist. I wrote my own songs. I got to tour. I got to play shows.
Wow.
I produced albums. I just had the time of my life for 6 years, from 11 to 17, just making music and with people I loved. And when I was 13, 14, I started developing as a young woman, and all the people around me were asking me to wear push-up bras and makeup and going to events with them with other older people. And
Oh.
when I was 17 years old, I kind of had this option of like, do I continue on in this path of being a musician, or do I go into, go to college and figure out what I want to do with that? So I decided to go to
Right.
college. And I spent the rest of my career making sure no one ever feels as small as I did when I was a little kid. And
Wow.
I think when the Forbes stuff came about, thinking about the earliness and now, right? Um, I did not handle the news well, and any of my friends will tell you, I was overwhelmed so deeply. I am a person that loves the climb. I don't appreciate, and I love the climb. I love the summit high. I don't love the view, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
have constantly been a point in my career where I like get bored once I achieve the thing, and I'm like, all right, on to the next thing, so I can do the summit high and work and do all that. And I think this Forbes thing was the first time I really had to like celebrate. Like I had to like really force myself. And in the end, what ended up happening, and this is hilarious anecdote and a tribute to my wonderful friends. Um, I was really having trouble. I like threw up every day, and I for like 2 weeks, and I couldn't figure out how to celebrate. I was so overwhelmed and really unwell about the whole thing, just because I didn't understand how to celebrate my own achievements. And
Right.
my friends had come together, and I kid you not, um, they purchased they rented a goat for me, like a like a literal like goat. And I was on this, like, I do this marketing meeting every Friday at 9 since the quarantine with all my friends, where we just help offer resources and talk to each other every Friday at 9 a.m. And I was on the call like I usually am, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Hey, go to your door," and I was like, "Okay." And then I go, and there's my best friend Brian, and then there's a goat, and I was like, "What?" And so yeah, they rented a goat for like an hour for me to just hang out with, and they were like, a goat for a goat. And
Oh, that's
that's how that
sweet.
whole time went about.
That's awesome. You have some great friends, it sounds like. Wow.
I really do.
A goat for a goat. That's a great little marketing thing, maybe too. A goat, a
Yeah,
goat for a goat.
I actually still have
Wow.
the goat photo too on here, which is funny. I just keep it
Oh
by
my
my
gosh,
desk.
that's great. Is that the goat or?
It is the goat. This is his headshot. His
Oh,
name was Doc. Like from the movie, I'm forgetting the name of it, with Marty McFly and everything.
oh yeah, yeah,
Back to the
yeah.
Future. My God.
Yep.
But yeah. So all that to say, it was hard for me to acknowledge such a distinction, and I am still learning how to do that. But I'm really grateful, and my whole story is just simply about making sure no one ever felt as small as I did. You know.
Wow. Wow, that's a great story and super powerful too because I think that a lot of times in the entertainment industry, we work in the entertainment industry as well. There's just so much pressure, so many standards and norms that don't make sense all the time. And people go through that process and get overwhelmed. And not just in the entertainment industry, that's also in any industry that can happen to somebody. And so, very important to make sure that uh, you empower people to make good decisions for themselves and not really for the environment that they're in. So, wow, that's
100%.
fantastic. And okay, so now we're gonna jump a little bit here. Throughout your career, it sounds like you've done lots of things. And a lot of marketing. It sounds like as well.
Yes.
What were some of the most powerful marketing tools that you've used throughout your career?
I think, well, just a couple of shout outs to like Chart Metric, I think is a really important tool in music about like understanding stats, growth, socials, amongst others for artists. So I've been using that since it's kind of conceptualized in the market. It's a really great
Right.
tool for music marketers in particular. I've also used like, everything from like Crimson Hexagon, Social Sprout, a bunch of other listening tools in like the social digital marketing space. Honestly,
Yeah.
though, I'd probably say like the most important tool overall is community. I have, unbeknownst to me, I feel like community as a concept in marketing has only been popular like as a as a normal point in vernacular in the past, like probably 4 years since COVID, I would say, people
Yeah.
started realizing, oh, like we need community, and I've been thinking about this since I was a child, and I've made my career off building communities, and I think that will always be the cornerstone as a tool, like the people you lean on as your peers. The community of fans around you as an artist, the team you develop to
Right.
market yourself as an artist, amongst other endeavors, and things like that. So community is the big one.
So what are some of the things that you do to build those communities? Because there are so many businesses out there who are thinking that, but the execution just isn't there, right? They're like, we're a community, and then it's all just sort of a bunch of fake stuff, which we see all the time. What's some of your advice to somebody trying to build a community for their brand or for their band or for them as an artist? What are some of those things that you do?
Totally. I think they narrow it down to like three things when building community. First and foremost, like I feel like a lot of marketers make the mistake of trying to figure out like just like as a metaphor, like an algorithm, if you will, like a social listening tool, like a thing that will solve the issue of like finding people in the community. And I think there is something to be said about like product market fit and then understanding the audience very well and whatever brand or
Mm,
musician that you're working with. But it really comes down to gathering a group of people that have a shared interest and putting them somewhere. And then that's it gets to my second thing is like, whether it's a WhatsApp group of 5 fans or people that are really a big fan of the brand or a Discord or Reddit community, like putting them somewhere and giving them space and allowing them access to information is imperative to the success of a community to make them feel like they're important, let alone acknowledged. Because I think that's the strong distinction. And the last thing within all this as well is letting them see the crazy. And the
right.
best way I explain this is like, so I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, like die hard since I was a little kid. Will always love
Yeah.
her. And one of the things that I find really endearing, and I always tell people, is like, as soon as I get too jaded to watch a fan like have an emotional reaction to an artist, like I will leave the music industry. Like then I obviously don't love it anymore, because what I love is when I go to a
Yeah.
show and I see someone in the audience just like sobbing and like having a deeply interpersonal, introspective like experience towards a piece of music or artist, and they're just in it, and that is the stuff I love. And the what happens within that too, and the psychology of it, in my opinion, is like when you see as a fan yourself, you see another fan reacting that way, it almost gives you permission to do the same, to feel the same, to be
Mm,
allowed to like express yourself in such a way. So that's kind of the last thing in community. It's like letting each other see the crazy, if you will,
yeah.
so then you're allowed to be that way. So that's kind of the steps of the community, in my opinion. It's first and foremost like, you know, finding them and then gathering them into like a shared like vessel of some sort, and then finally allowing them to just be their crazy selves and celebrate their fandom within that way.
Wow. That is some great. We call that spilling the tea on marketing tip tea time, and that was that was perfect.
Love
I
it.
mean, I think that as marketers too, we like to make things complicated because it sounds cool
Exactly.
when it's complicated. And the truth of marketing is that it's not. It's about human connection at the end of the day, relationships and human connection. And so yeah, doing all the algorithms and all of that can really get in the way of actually making the connection in the end. And I really like your point about giving them the space to be themselves essentially within your community, and that's probably the biggest thing because, as you said, letting everybody see the crazy, then everybody goes, oh, this is authentic. This is what
Yes.
we're all here for, and that is a great message for anyone. And you know that one of the biggest platforms in community out on the internet that we see is Reddit. And I know that you have recently transitioned from Reddit to your own gig at Cool Shit Cool People, and you know being the global chair of diversity and inclusion at Women in Music. Can you tell me a little bit about this transition with Reddit? Reddit was, you know, sort of about community. That was the place. At least I still go to Reddit when there is a technical thing or there's a platform thing that I can't figure out, and then I can ask everybody in the community. Um, so you know, just tell me a little bit about that transition and what your next steps are and going from where you were to now your own gig.
Yeah. So I was unfortunately part of the layoffs with Reddit, as many people are experiencing right now in tech. I think they're calling it the techkening right now, I believe. But basically,
Wow.
I heard this phrase recently and
Wow.
I was like, interesting. Um, but but yeah, I was
Yeah.
laid off, unfortunately. And to be transparent, it's kind of a crazy thing. So I was actually laid off so I was laid off 2 years ago as well from a previous company of mine, and it was kind of 2021 was the worst year of my life. It was my friend died in January from ovarian
Oh
cancer,
wow.
and then I was laid off in April that year, and then I had a bunch of other personal and health mental stuff come about, and then 2 years late, and during that time I was struggling. Like my mental health was not in a good
Yeah.
place. I was not frequently in therapy at the time. I didn't find the right medication for myself, and I was just really, really, really unwell. I can't stress that enough. And then I got better. I got help. I found just really leaned into my community, and I'm so grateful to be out of that like space in my life.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, forward, right? On the same day, on the set 2 year anniversary that my friend died, I lost my job at Reddit, and
Oh.
I yeah, and I don't say
Whoa.
this for any pity by any means, but yes, exactly. Like it was just
Wow.
I somehow found myself in somewhat in the same place I was 2 years ago, and so and wanted to explain that because I think it's important for people to understand like first off, you don't really know what someone's going through in these layoffs. Like if you have a friend that was laid off and such like that, probably the
Yeah.
questions you shouldn't ask them would be like, did you want to leave anyway? Were you like was this expected? Did you see it coming? All this stuff. The question you
Yeah.
should be asking them is how are you and how can I support you? And
Right.
I and I think in the vein of this transition that's happening for me right now, I'm really grateful to say I'm in an extremely better place mental health wise. And I kind of took that and was like, you know what? If Red isn't going to focus on creators anymore, which is the work I did there, I'm going to go do things with creators still because a company doesn't stop me from the community building that can be done through the work I do. And so
Right.
with Cool Shit Cool People, I've always had this kind of agency in the back of my hand because I love projects and I love working with people of all different types of backgrounds. And um, what I've kind of positioned myself in is just working with cool people doing cool shit. And why the whole vision of my kind of company, if you will, is just like working on projects at leisure. And full transparency, I'm looking for my next thing, but I'm having a lot of fun right now and I'm enjoying
Yeah.
work and I'm in a much better place mental health wise. So as far as like what this transition looks like, it's just a reminder of the self-worth I put myself in over these past few years, making sure that my value isn't based on the company, it's based on the work I do and the person I am and the community around me.
Wow. Something that I've noticed as we're talking is you are just crazy open and honest and authentic. And a question that just comes to my mind is what sort of have you always been so open and honest and authentic, or has there been work involved? I mean, I don't think we've ever had a guest who's like, here it all is. And so that's why I think that for marketers too, and for just people in business in general, everybody says it's just business, it's not personal, but really business is super personal, right? Like that's the way it is. And I think that being open and honest and authentic is really important. That's the way that we try to run things at Marketing Tip Tea Time and at Zova. And so do you have any sort of advice for somebody who is maybe struggling to be open and authentic, to find their community? How do you foster that sort of a mindset?
That is a
I know,
really, really good
curveball.
question. No, no, I
Yeah.
think it's so valid though, and like I think you kind of welcome like honest questions with honest responses, right?
Right.
I think for me, I think what has helped me, there's probably narrow it down to two things. One, I was just talking about this with a person that's known me for over 15 years. When I was under the age of 21, I probably didn't have a personality. I swear to God, like I was so dependent on the identity other people put on me. And at the time, and still a little bit, everyone would probably say I was shy. I had like maybe one or two friends, and I was just so hard on myself because I didn't think anyone liked me if I was myself. And then
Oh, wow.
around that time, it was when I started getting therapy and such like that. And I started just liking myself like 1% more every day. It was literally like little activities. It was just like, I'm gonna, do this. I'm gonna go to the grocery store. I'm gonna talk to one person and I'm gonna go, do this like networking thing and I'm gonna make a new friend. Like it was just little challenges to like myself more. And the more I started liking myself, the more people started liking me too. So I think first and foremost, it's just trying to like yourself a little bit more and allowing yourself to realize that people like you if you like yourself. And the other thing I would also say is I kind of had that after my first layoff, I had this moment where I just struggled with, I realized that I didn't have anyone that I knew that was laid off that talked openly about it and how
Mm.
much it sucked. It sucks. Like, I don't care what situation you're in. If you have $1
Yeah.
million, if you're like, struggling, like, it just always feels like an attack on your ego and your worth. But when I started talking about it, I started finding more people that have had the same kind of comparisons, whether it's through layoffs or other situations of strife. And I just started realizing, like, if I'm just honest, like, people approach that too. So it's really just liking myself more. And the more I was honest, the more I found people that were honestly being honest to themselves too. So I
Wow.
don't know if that's helpful at all, but I think the main thing for me is just like, uh, I don't know if I would say I've always been this way, but I'm really happy to be now.
Yeah, that is deep. Oh my gosh, we just had like a heart to heart moment here on Marketing Tip Tea Time. That was amazing. And I think there are a lot of people, especially now, coming out of COVID. Everybody's looking for something at the moment, and we can. And I felt that not just in business and marketing, but in society. Everybody is sort of at this point where we went through this crazy 3 years where everything that was expected was thrown out the window. And now that everybody's sort of society's moving back to normal, I see so many people questioning what is my norm, like what should that be, should that be what I'm doing, like now I've had a chance to think,
Hmm.
what is the next, what is my next thing. And so I think that's super powerful, even for brands, for individuals. What is the way that everybody's going to move forward, community wise, branding wise, marketing wise, personally to themselves, in a way that I think really, it's shaking stuff up. Everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, there's something else now we've got to do. And so no, I really appreciate that openness and that honesty, because I know that that's going to help the millions of people who are in that situation, coming out of a layoff with the teching, or they just don't feel quite right after COVID. They're like, I don't want to go back to this job. I don't want to keep doing these same things. So I think
Hmm.
that being open and honest is probably the best thing we can do for people at the moment.
100%.
So definitely. All right. Wow. Whew. That was really good. All right. By the way, this tea, I'm gonna pivot to the tea. Amazing. This is
I'm
gonna
glad
be
you
one of
like
my
it.
regular.
Yay.
This is gonna be one of my regular teas that I drink. I drink a lot of black tea, like straight Earl
Hmm.
Grey, English breakfast, and this gives it just the twist it needs for me not to feel like I'm drinking the same thing every single day.
Yes.
And it's got this really sweet flavor, but the sweetness is not overpowering.
Yes.
It's
Totally.
got the
Totally. I
vanilla
also,
notes, and yeah,
yeah,
perfect.
I highly recommend adding milk and a little bit of honey too, because it just makes it really, it surprisingly makes it very thick, like the flavor. It
Okay.
almost makes you feel like you're drinking like almost like a hot chocolate is the best way I could describe it. But yeah, definitely recommend.
Ooh. So essentially like a London fog with this tea is.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Oh man, I love London fog. Those are my favorite. All right.
Agreed.
On to the next question. You're known for elevating marginalized communities through business and communications. Uh, and that is, I think, something that everybody's thinking about. In what we do, we're thinking about that constantly as well. And it's really important. So, for anybody out there who is trying to reach these communities and trying to elevate them as well through their own communication strategies, what have been the best marketing and communication tactics that you have used to accomplish this? And do you have any specific awesome stories, which I'm sure you do, about how you did that?
I'd probably say I one of my favorite kind of projects was working with BTS on this billboard campaign. So when I was at Reddit, I worked with the Geffen team and the BTS management team. And for those context, BTS is like a very world famous Korean boy band. who are amazing and wonderful. And
Yep.
basically the concept of the campaign was we worked with their community r/bangtan, which is the Korean name for the artist, to do a billboard campaign. So to understand a little bit more, BTS has millions of fan accounts, Instagram, Twitter, all these different things, and
Oh wow. Okay.
there's only one community on Reddit for them, though, which is extremely interesting because a centralized community is a very hard thing to find, right? Like rather than millions of Reddit subreddits, there's only one for them. So
Wow.
my work with their team was the idea of like, what if we were to mobilize them? What if we were to work with them on, creating billboards and campaigns like that? And to understand too, so when I was working at YouTube, the APAC market, that was something that was really fascinating to me marketing wise. It's some of the first markets that understand alternative monetization as a way of like fan support. So, for example, like in Korea and Japan and a few other countries in that region, they fans will come together and buy billboards for their favorite like artists and such. So, if you can imagine,
Whoa.
yeah, so it's a very popular thing they do there. And so my thought was like, well, I've heard a few cases of people doing that in the US, but obviously not as popular because the American dollar and such. But what if I bought the billboards and the fans got to design them? And so that's what we did. We bought two billboards, New York and LA, and fans got to enter in a contest to buy them. And the most upvoted designs were the ones in the billboard. And then what we worked with their team on was to support it after the billboard was announced, and fans were going crazy. They loved seeing like the social support from the team. It worked also well too in the way they were promoting a Grammy nomination for their single Butter. So we were kind of sneakily doing that as well.
Wow.
So all that to say, I think the real sauce to that was understanding like what made Reddit unique in this kind of particular campaign. Also, my experience understanding like marketing outside the US, I think there's some really amazing campaigns. Like I think the American culture always thinks we do everything the best, and which is not true at all.
Right.
So it's important as a marketer to understand everything outside of the US and like the global territories, and also what makes them very unique, because I think oftentimes too those countries are experiencing things that we will experience later on, so it's important to understand where that goes. And then
Right.
lastly, I think just harnessing the power of the fans and working with them to be able to like understand like, okay, this is something we want to do with them and they're excited about it, and then also getting their support, because that was the thing too. Like I really commend the moderators of r/bangtan, because we wouldn't have done this without them, and they knew their audience best. They knew how to like approach everyone. They knew how to like communicate this well. They also knew like that they would want to be paid for do entering into the contest and for the winners and such. So it was really important to like be at the level of the fan in that. I should also say too, like
Yeah.
um one a friend of mine who's a kindergarten teacher, she, I don't have a strong affinity to children. I want them, but they don't like me. I think it's because they know I want them. And um I asked her once, I was like, what's your sauce, man? Like you have a new crop of kids every year and they worship you. Like what is it? Like what do you do? And she said, I don't speak to them standing up. I speak to them at their level. So they know I'm listening to them and I'm here with them. And I think that's the way people should approach marketing. It's not about being above anything, it's about being where the people are in that way, and getting to their
Yeah.
level.
Wow. Again, spilling the tea here, or you said, the sauce of that. We say, giving up the secret sauce there a few times too. So that is some great advice. Really coming down to the level of the fans of your market, not being above them, but being with them. I think is sort of the summary of that. Yeah, fantastic information. I know my brain's sort of like you can see it buffering after all the good information. After all the good information. Um, so then you've had so much experience in such a really rich career. It seems like even up to this point. But as a business leader now, with everything you've learned, what is some advice that you'd give to high school or middle school you?
Definitely don't wear flared capris. They were never cool and they weren't cool then. I think that'd be the big one. I think, I talked a little bit about this earlier, but I think as a leader, you're allowed to struggle. You're allowed to have bad days. I firmly believe you don't meet everyone on their good days. Um,
Yeah.
And I think what I would tell myself is to be really gentle with yourself. And I think I carry that and remind myself of that through every instance, whether personal or in business and such. I think early in my career, I found myself making mistakes. And I would just, oh my goodness, I would just be so incredibly hard on myself. And I still find
Mm.
myself falling to that at times. So I probably like just really shake the shoulders of my younger self and just be like, be gentle with yourself. You
Yeah.
deserve to be gentle. You deserve gentleness from others. You don't deserve anyone that makes you feel anything less than worthy. And I think as it relates to like leadership as well too, you're going to find in life, like if you're managing people, if you're working on a team, doesn't matter, that you people are going to look at you for like for leadership in those moments. And it's okay to say like, hey, like I need a break, I need time, I need
Yeah.
X. And it's such an important precedent to set with your team and your reports that you don't always have to be on point, you don't always have to be well, you just need to be careful and gentle with yourself first and foremost.
Wow, that's some great advice. We have, like I said, a big portion of our viewers are high school students and college students who are trying to figure out like what the hell do I do after I get my degree and and move forward. And I think that's just some great advice for anyone, not just in marketing. I mean, just anyone who is a person, needs to follow that advice. So that is deep. We got deep today, everyone. I hope you've got your tea and you're taking notes and listening to these stories because this has been pretty awesome. Are there any last bits of advice or stories or anything that you want to tell our audience before we sign off for the season?
Um, you were talking about, speaking to high school students and such like that. And I was very lucky in my time to understand like my mission. I didn't know what the role would look like. I didn't know what the title will look like. And I found myself in this kind of weird parabola of my life where like I didn't know like what the title or the thing I wanted to do was, but I knew like my mission as far as like, making sure no one ever felt that small. And then I found
Mm-hmm.
myself in my career looking at titles, companies, different forms of stature that I started believing provided me value. And,
Right.
after my first layoff, I stepped away from that completely and started going back to doing things that are according to my mission, what I hold value in. And I think for the students and the people listening to this and overall, like my biggest hope in all that you do is that it's okay to like be excited about the title or the company you work for and drink the Kool-Aid and such, but I swear
Yeah.
to you, in order to like really truly feel more about the person you want to be, the commitments outside of work you want to do, you have to take the time to like understand that person and sit in discomfort with them. And
Right.
discomfort is okay, greatness is okay, and you can do all of that and still work on yourself and be excellent. It's not a binary thing that needs to happen. We live in a non-binary world, and I just want people to know that you're allowed to adjust and be in greatness and discomfort. And I hope that, if anything, that you carry that with you.
Wow. Perfect. That was a great transition, Josh. That was the perfect. This has been such an incredibly powerful episode, and thank you so much, Maria. We really really appreciate all of the advice you've given, all of the stories you've given. Again, marketing tip tea time is all about stories, tips, and sips, and so that's what we strive for, and you've really given us and me personally a lot to think about. I think that everybody who's watching the show, this was a different take than we usually get, and we're incredibly grateful for that. And we're also so thankful for our audience who watches. I have to give a huge shout out to Stephanie, who is actually the one who introduced us to Maria. Thank you so much. She was on
Yes.
last season. Yes, woo, of Marketing Tip Tea Time. She was awesome. If you haven't seen that episode, you got to go back and watch hers as well. Also, I do have to give a shout out to an entire country, which is India at the moment. We had a show with one of my former professors, Dr. Vish Iyer from the University of Northern Colorado, which actually brought a huge, he's from India, and it brought a huge audience from India who is now watching our show pretty regularly. So thank you if you're in India. Thank you. We are so thankful for all of the views that you're giving us and all of the interaction. Thank you also to, you know, our entire audience who watches, and please reach out to us if you have any any sort of topic you want to see on the show, or if you have somebody that you think would be really good on the show, we would like to cover that, or if there are any questions that you'd like answered on the show. Also, thank you to Josh French, who's our technical producer upstairs, our assistant technical director, Phil Van Drunen, our graphics supervisor, Peter Romero, and our set and graphics team, Alyssa and Sheridan Youngval. And, you know, thank you to everyone who has ever done anything for us on the show. My parents who, you know, have helped us to buy or given us some of the things on set. And, you know, we have had a fantastic season, and we couldn't have done it without the community that is sort of rallying around us to keep us pushing forward. So, you know, thank you to everyone. Thank you to everybody in our office here at the Macy Jones Collective in downtown Greeley, to my family. We love you all, and we will see you for season 6, which is going to start in August. And until then, everyone, have a great summer. And until next time, na zdraví, cheers. Thank you so much, Maria.
Cheers. Have a good one. Thanks, y'all.